Okay everybody, this is mooneydashcam. If you enjoy these videos, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe. Alright, so today we're in Harlem. We're going to be talking about Nicky Barnes, also known as Mr. Untouchable. His full name is Leroy Nicholas Barnes. So yeah, he was like a big drug kingpin back in the 70s and earlier. Alright, so a little bit of his early history. He left home early to get away from his abusive and alcoholic father. He started dealing drugs to make money. I read afterwards that he was arrested on robbery charges earlier than 10 years old. So he was a street kid for sure. So yeah, he started dealing drugs to make some money. He ended up getting hooked on heroin himself. And was hooked on it for a few years until he went to a treatment center. Ended up getting better. This guy's serious? Come on, pull off to the side a little bit more for me here. It's lucky I could drive this thing. Yeah, so when he went to treatment, he kicked the habit. And then he got sent to prison for low-level drug dealing in 1965 when he was 32. He was arrested plenty of times before that. During that time in prison, he met Crazy Joe Gallo, a member of the Colombo crime family, and Matthew Madonna, a heroin dealer for the Lucchese crime family. And at the time, Gallo wanted to expand into Harlem, but didn't have a crew to deal in the predominantly African-American areas. So it's believed that Gallo passed on all his drug trafficking knowledge to Nicky Barnes. So when Gallo was released, I guess they started to like each other in prison. When Gallo was released, he got a lawyer for Barnes who got him released on a technicality. And as soon as he was released, he got a crew and started the operation, cutting up heroin and trafficking heroin. Right here in Harlem is where he started. I'm gonna actually be driving to. I can't find exactly where he was born, like the address, but I could go to the block that I found. It's very weird. It does seem like a lot of people are out there in quarantine, but normally this is jam-packed, and especially on a nice day like this, there'd be tons of people out. So, in 1972, to deal with all the other big gangsters at the time, Barnes founded something called the Council. It was a 7-man organization. It was modeled after the 5 mafia families. It settled disputes among the criminals and handled distribution issues and other drug-related problems. It was kind of like their own little policing of themselves, so they didn't get too out of hand with each other. And so they all kind of cooperated in certain ways. Obviously there were disputes between everybody, but that was how they handled it. By 1976, Barnes' operations spread throughout all of New York State into Pennsylvania and Canada. According to DEA records, so the number might actually be more than this, at the time the operation consisted of 7 lieutenants who each controlled a dozen mid-level distributors who in turn supplied upwards of 40 street-level dealers each. I didn't do the math on that one. That's a lot of goddamn people. I'm happy Harlem's like a straight-up grid, so I don't really have to pay attention to where I'm going too much. But yeah, this is Harlem. Back in the day, this was one of the worst areas in the city. You couldn't just walk around here if you weren't from here. Even if you were from here, I'm sure you got fucked with. Alright, bud. I mean, wow, look at this old church up to the right here. Crazy. Okay, so when Barnes was really making money, he had to set up front companies to protect his money and his assets. So he did. He started up multiple car dealerships, but eventually the DEA caught onto that and seized all of his assets. And he had Bentleys, like all the nice cars at the time. He had. Barnes' net worth reached over $50 million at the height of his power. A New York Times article estimated that just his custom suits, shoes, coats, and jewelry alone was valued at $7 million. So this guy was really seriously balling at the time. We have a guy to the left here. Looks like he's making his own YouTube video. So yeah, he was given the name Mr. Untouchable after beating numerous charges and arrests. At one time, he had 13 arrests, no convictions. It's believed that while under surveillance, Barnes would often make points. So he was followed all the time by law enforcement because they were just trying anything to get to this guy. But he delegated all of his crime to other people, so he was never actually personally involved, so they couldn't catch him on anything. So as he was being followed, he knew he was being followed, and he would just make pointless stops just to aggravate the people. He would even go on high-speed chases, 100+ mile-an-hour chases all through the city, just to aggravate whoever was following him for no other reason, just for that. Pull up at his house, get out. He wouldn't even get charged with a speeding ticket. It's kind of crazy. So you can see why he had the name Mr. Untouchable. Alright, this next street here, West 113th. I'm not finished telling you guys about him yet, but we'll shoot down the street anyway. Well, that guy was just screaming he has these streets on lock. That was Barnes back in the day. So it's this block, but a few blocks up. So, after the New York Times put Barnes on the front cover in 1977 with the big headline, Mr. Untouchable, it pissed off President Jimmy Carter, and he ordered that Barnes was prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. So, when New York Times was going to do the article, they said, hey, we want like a good photo of you for the cover, and if you don't give us one, we'll use one of your mugshots. And he hated his mugshots. So if you look up the New York Times cover, he's got like a blue denim suit on, a red, white, and blue tie, and his arms are crossed, and he looks like very menacing. And that ultimately is what pissed off Jimmy Carter to get him arrested. January 19th, 1978, Barnes was sentenced to life without parole. So his criminal reign was coming to an end. While in prison, Barnes learned that another one of the council members was sleeping with his mistress, which violated the rules of the council. There was no messing around with anyone's wives or mistresses. And he also found out that they weren't handling his assets. They were letting his money and his apartments and his cars and stuff kind of waste away, which he kind of found as disrespectful, which it was. And so in response to that, he forwarded a list of 109 names and became a federal informant. His testimony implicated him in 8 murders. I think overall it ended up in 44 indictments of people and 16 or 19, I don't remember exactly, convictions. So I guess he was a good informant, if there ever was one. Obviously they're good, but I believe in if you do the crime, you should do the time, you know? Alright, so this block right here, West 113th and 8th, which is now Frederick Douglass Boulevard, is his block. So one of these buildings right here, I don't know exactly which one, I wish I did, but I don't. We'll head up Frederick Douglass Boulevard. So yeah, after he cooperated, he got his sentence reduced to 35 years, and he actually ended up getting out 2 months early of his sentence, and he was released in 1998. He actually died of cancer June 18th, 2012, which would have kind of been a thing that made headlines, like any other crime boss who dies. But since he was under witness protection at the time, his daughter, his family, and ultimately his daughter didn't release that he passed away until 2019. So yeah, 2019 is when New York Times made another article, and it was kind of blasted all over that he ultimately passed away. But yeah, so that is the story of Nicky Barnes, Mr. Untouchable. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please subscribe. Comments and likes are always appreciated. Thanks for watching.